We're here in Los Angeles with Larry Benet. This is one of the most connected connectors that I've ever met in my entire life. We are part of a mastermind group called the War Room, where digital marketers, entrepreneurs, and people that were really powerful influencers network together. He's also become one of my really good friends, and we've hung out in Las Vegas at my buddy Tony Hsieh's crib, and we have so many friends in common, and it's just amazing because you're somebody who networked with pretty much everyone I've ever met and know. And it's very rare that I meet somebody who knows as many people as I do. And you always organize conferences. I mean, you have one tomorrow, you're like, hey Nick, come check out this wine event, this networking event. One of the things that I love about what you're doing is that you've organized events with the best speakers, authors, and people of influence and become really good friends and joint venture partners with all these people. I think it's really amazing. I'd love to have you share, what is it that is your secret to really master that networking process?
So I think if there's any secrets, there is no secret. I really believe it's one relationship at a time. So it's, you and I are sitting down now doing this interview because we have some relationship capital in our past, we have some history. And you were talking about Tony Hsieh. I literally cold called Tony Hsieh years ago. And I think by that point, Zappos was probably on the cover of like Inc. magazine. And I remember this, that his company, Zappos, was getting really hot at that time. And so I'm like, you know what? I was holding an event in Vegas, even though I didn't know Tony. And I reached out to him. I'm like, listen, Tony Robbins is going to be there, and Les Brown and Paula, Abdul. Anyway, we had some interesting business personalities that were going to be at this conference. And I was like, might it be possible for you to come down the block, to the Wynn Encore Hotel and share with our tribe of influencers who reach tens of millions of people? Could you share your story about Zappos? Can you share your story about customer service? And that started as a cold call, but I framed it in a way that he would win. Because if there's a lot of these influencers hearing his story, his message around customer expertise and customer service, that would be a good thing for Zappos. So he came, and literally, it's the same way we got Tony Robbins. It was, hey, what do you need? And I think when it comes to relationships, it's that one relationship at a time. I believe you should be nice to everyone. You and I, if we meet someone, we're here at the Westin, so we just both got off a panel, so if we can help someone in real time, I think you should do that. I don't think it's possible, though, to invest in everyone equally. So I think one of my other things that we've done well is look at who are the influencers in a specific industry and how can you create and serve value for them first with no expectation of anything in return. And I think it's that whole give first, add value mentality that will serve not only me well, but anyone else for that matter.
How unique is your approach? I mean, if you look at a guy like Tony, for example, and you have this like awesome network of people. Yeah. Of course, everyone wants to network. Are you kind of doing the same kind of thing with each person? Is it always the stance of connectors, or is there something else that you're looking for?
So two things. Let's break down Tony Hsieh of Zappos, just because we both know him. Most people may have heard of Zappos. Now, here's what's interesting. He's very successful already. He sold his company to Amazon. He's doing pretty well. But just to give you a perfect example, he came out with a book called Delivering Happiness. So 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever it was, Time magazine came out with the cover talking about the science of happiness. So I see this article, and what I did was I sent it to Tony and some other people that were either authors or experts all about happiness, or I knew they really cared about that subject. And I said, Tony, thinking of you, I don't know if you saw this whole thing about Time magazine, but it's really about the topic that you wrote about. He says, thank you so much. I didn't see it. I really appreciate it. And so even though someone like him, as successful as he is, with the downtown project and all the things he's done, you got to tap into what's important to them at that moment in time. So I think as life changes, sometimes it's personal, sometimes it's business. I'm supposed to have a conversation later tonight with a very well-known influencer in internet marketing. And I remember a couple years ago, I asked him, I'm like, hey, how you doing? And he goes, okay. And I said, how is your kids? And he goes, they're okay. And I said, how's your wife? And he says, well, we're going through a divorce and she wants 100% custody of the kids. And I was like, wow, that's deep. And I'm like, with your permission, can I connect you to someone who runs like a divorced dad's network? And he's like, yeah, that would be great. So in that moment of time, what was important to him, I mean, his personal world was collapsing. Everyone else was pitching him on doing a joint venture of internet marketing. At that moment in time, that's not really what he cared about. Most people will never take the time to go learn or even care enough about what's important to someone else. So that's where I think the foundation lies. And one of the things I found is just asking simple questions when you meet someone within the first couple of minutes, and then you can kind of start the seeds or plant the seeds of what could be a long-term relationship. And then you got to follow up on some of the things you might hear.
One of the things that really captivated me about you was when I was in my dire need, and you just texted me out of nowhere in the middle of what we call Julian Gate now, which is when Julian became the most hated man in the world. And you're like, hey man, do you need any help with PR or what have you? And that's what I was doing. I was actually flying to New York City and meeting up with the top publicists in the world, trying to set us up to get on CNN so we could clear the air.
Yeah.
But just having you reach out to me just kind of like pulled like a light bulb in my head, and I was like, wow, that was so thoughtful. Larry is really on his game for networking. That totally gives me like this understanding of how you really connect with people.
So I think it comes down to, so here's a couple questions that I think one should ask in the beginning of a relationship. So like, you know, what do you do for fun? Or what are you most passionate about in life? Or, you know, maybe what your favorite charity or your favorite cause is and why, to really get to know someone. But I think if someone has like a health issue, if someone has a crisis in business, if they're going through a tragedy, divorce, in your case, you guys were dealing with a business crisis. And to me, I think it's just about having empathy and caring enough to go, you know what, I remember reaching out to saying, do you need any reputation management help or any of that kind of stuff in your time of need? And to me, it's just more about understanding who's in your network and caring enough about them to see what you can do to help someone. That's really what it boils down to.
Yeah, I love that empathy that you have. It's amazing. I think that is probably one of the really core strengths that you have more than anything else, is really trying to empathize with people. I know a lot of people that will say they're connectors, and they'll try to do the typical networking thing, but they don't really care. They're like, hey, who should I meet in this crowd? And hey, why should I meet this person? You know what I'm looking for, and they kind of go from that standpoint. Or it'll be like, who are the most influential people? But there's no particular reason why. There's just like they're looking for the value, but they don't know why they're looking for the value.
So if you think about it, I'll give you a quick example. I was the opening keynote speaker, or I was the opening speaker at the largest social media conference in the world a couple years ago. And there was the chief marketing officer of a very large software company I knew was at the event. And I saw her in the hallway. She goes, listen, I didn't hear you speak, but I only heard amazing things, and I saw the social media blow up. She's like, I would really love for you to do what you did for that conference to help people connect. Can you do it for our conference? I'm like, oh, that would be awesome. So eventually we sign a date where we have a phone call. The date comes, and I jump on the phone, and she's like, Larry, I just got to tell you, this is not really good time. She goes, I just found out my mom's got leukemia. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear. Now, most people hear that, but most people don't do much with that. So I said to her, I'm like, listen, I know we should just cancel the call. No, not a problem. But I said, Kathy, I have someone in my network whose dad had, my partner had leukemia, Chet Holmes. I said, if I connect you to his daughter, she was his caretaker, and she knew everything that they did, alternative solutions and all sorts of stuff. Is there any value if I connected the two of you? She goes, oh, that'd be great. You know what she told me? She said that was the single most valuable call of the year for her. Because that's what was going on in her world at that one moment in time. So I think it's literally is something, I mean, from a philosophy standpoint, can you help other people? Of course you can, one relationship at a time. Sometimes it's through your newsletter, your sharing of ideas, but I think other times it's just a matter of caring and connecting the dots, whether it's through strategic introductions or resources. Like here's my phone right here, and you're talking about tomorrow. It's my buddy's event that he's having, and I'm asking myself who else in LA might be relevant that we should invite. As a matter of fact, right before I came here on the Uber, I asked myself who lived in Venice, California, who lived in Santa Monica, California, and who lived in Marina that I knew was in close proximity. And I texted a few people, and a handful of people showed up here tonight that hopefully they received some value from. So it's about, being organized enough, I think, with the network.
Yeah, I think that's really cool because a lot of the things that I was talking about in a previous video was inviting other people to other people's events.
Yeah.
Like I was in a yacht party in New York City, so I invited Gary Vaynerchuk. And it wasn't my event, but I was like, hey, having this party here, I'd love for you to come check it out. Or just any kind of events, because a lot of people are not really organizers. They don't really want to organize the event, but yet so many other people are that they know, and they can just invite them to those events. Maybe they don't want to do it because they want to impose. But if it's someone who they know that other person really wants to meet, or the people that they would want to bring, I mean, for example, we used to have parties in the hills. And so we would invite a lot of hot girls to random basketball players' parties from the NBA. I remember Stephen Marbury had
and that's a value for those guys.
Yeah, so we used to invite a couple hundred girls. They're not going to complain, especially they're pretty girls, and things like that. But I mean, you're doing it with influencers.
So I think you should be a professional inviter, meaning it doesn't even have to be your own events. I'll give you a technique or a question you can ask of any person that runs an event. So on the 4th of July, which was like a week ago, right?
Yeah.
My friend Hsieh, probably one of the most fun and fascinating people in my network. Her husband was the co-creator of 2.5 Men and Big Bang Theory. So I said to Lisa, I've been to her 4th of July party now 2 or 3 years. I said, would you like any more fun and fascinating people at your 4th of July party? She says, oh, that'd be great. So last year I invited a bunch of people. This year, the day before the party, I sent out an email saying, hey, I've been to this party several years. She always has amazing people, does a great job, and it really attracts a lot of fun and fascinating people. And so I asked her the question, she said yes. I invited out some people I haven't connected with in a while. Everyone had a great time. There was value for her because great people came to the event. There was value in the people that came. And when they were there, I made some introductions to other people that they should know each other. And just like you did, you were in New York at a yacht party, so you reached out to Gary Vee. There's probably value for Gary Vee. There's probably Gary's one of the most influential guys in the world on social media. I'm sure people love to meet him. So it's always thinking about how can you leverage other things of value, in this case events, for others to benefit. I also love how you kind of work the room. I mean, it's not necessarily work, but you just are really laid back and you enjoy the process. For example, at this networking event, we were at the panel for Success 2020. And typically in this conference, I would just bounce, go with my video team. I was hanging out with Bill and I was like, you know what, this is cool, Bill, I'll speak at your panel. And then you kind of lay back and people just come to you and you start talking and you meet interesting people. And a lot of the interactions I had tonight, I met a lot of interesting people that were also on the panel, but typically I would have just bounced, I would have just gone. But you really just take your time and really enjoy the process of that networking process. Do you really kind of do that like in every kind of like business conference, or is it kind of particular places you go? I mean, how do you determine when you're really just going to lay back and just go deep, as opposed to when you should just bounce? Now, most people go to events, and what most people are trying to do is they're flipping business cards, they're trying to shake a lot of hands, meet a lot of people. I actually don't do very much of that. Normally, if I go to an event, I kind of want to know in advance as many of the people, like who's there, and I'm trying to go with maybe some specific outcomes. So if I know you're here, I want to go deep with you. Literally, I mean, I wanted to obviously help Bill, and so I agreed to the panel. But if I met no one else here tonight, but if I got a deeper connection with you, built a deeper relationship, added value to you, my night would have been a huge success because you're someone that I admire, someone I've known for a while, you got a great business. So I would rather invest in a handful of relationships than try to go wide all over the place. Now, on the other flip side, I try to be present. So if I'm having a conversation with someone, and the lady was telling me about domestic violence, I asked her the question, why are you attracted to domestic violence charity? She's like, well, from personal experience. So I was tuned in, I'm listening to what she has to say. I'm going to try to connect the dots, see if I could serve some value her way, maybe today, next week, down the road. And the other thing that I notice with most people and you're very good at it as well. Most people are not organized, so they may have a contact. You know, tonight we got a bunch of business cards, right? So I got some business cards tonight, but like, which are the cards here that matter? And then, you know, how are we going to organize these things? So, you know, what do I know about these people? So if I ever do have an event, is it relevant for them? You know, right before I came here today, about a week ago, do you know Keith Ferrazzi?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know Keith.
Yeah, Never Eat Alone.
So Keith wrote the book, Never Eat Alone, great book. Who's Got Your Back, another great book.
Former Starwood CMO.
He used to be the chief marketing officer of Starwood and I think Deloitte & Touche.
Organizer of some of the best parties at Burning Man.
Yeah, he does a great Burning Man party. He throws great dinner parties. Anyway, about a few weeks ago, my friend Jim Quick, who I think you also know, Jim was having an event, and Keith was in the corner. We just caught up briefly, and he mentioned to me he's trying to raise the last $700,000 for his new startup. So anyway, I'm like, I made an introduction to a very influential person, and then I reached back out to him. I'm like, hey, I know you do these dinner parties. I'm like, if you ever want, I'm happy to invite, or we could do one specific event for just high-end entrepreneurs or investor types. And we'll do that if you ever want. I'm happy to do it. He goes, oh, that'd be great. Because right now, that's what's important to him. But if you can triangulate, so in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, who's someone in my network that I know that could be of value to Keith? And literally, there's a guy I invited earlier tonight. I've wanted to connect with this guy for a very long time. As a matter of fact, he was on the Forbes 400 as recent as last year. Huge player in Hollywood. I sent him an email about who else was coming and some other people that I invited. And 5 minutes later, he responds back. He goes, I'd love to go. And I basically said in the thing, I said, would you and your wife like to come to this dinner party? Explain a little bit about, you know, who Keith was and whatever. Anyway, the point I'm making is, it's all about, I'm trying to help him, but at the same time, I think I'm going to add value to a lot of other people. And when you add more relationship capital and you have more connection currency, it just gets easier for when you ask for something. So you're asking for an interview, or you know, Bill asked, can I sit on the panel? When you have relationship capital, or you want to do a joint venture, or you want the girl to say yes, or whatever it is, it just gets easier for them to say yes to your whatever your request is.
Yeah, I love the flow of this conversation, because that was actually exactly what I was going to ask you next. That flow state of when you're going to actually capitalize on your relationships. A lot of people will build the network and they won't capitalize. On the other hand, other people just try to capitalize without building the relationship. But I love the balance, that kind of yin-yang kind of balance that you maintain throughout everything.
Right before we went on the panel, I got a call from a guy named Harvey Mackay. And Harvey,
Master Networker.
If you've never read Harvey's books, let's see, Harvey's written what, Swim with the Sharks. Just go read any of Harvey Mackay's books. I mean, he's like 80 years old. He is an absolute master. Learned a lot from him. So, truth be told, his goal right now is to go sell his Harvey Mackay University for like $100. Fantastic program. So that's his number one priority. It's like his legacy project, okay? So, I know what's important to Harvey. So then I'm like, you know, Keith Ferrazzi's number one thing right now is raising money. I know you know people that could probably throw in some money. Keith has a list. I'm sure Keith would be happy to promote you, but let's make it a win-win. Now, you know, Bill Walsh, he's got a big list, but you know, Harvey in his mind, he just wants to go sell his, you know, to the newsletter. I'm like, Harvey, let's think win-win. What can you do to help Bill, and how could Bill support you through an endorsement to his customer base? So I think the more you think about win-win relationships and think about relationships differently, think about it. How many relationships does it take to change your life?
One,
if it's the right one, right?
Sure.
Most people, like, they're just trying to meet so many people. I think just go deep with the right relationships, because think about Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak. Between the two of them, that's what created Apple. And so I think there's a lot to be said with focusing, going deeper, investing more, serving more, helping more. And when you have that servant mentality and you're making a difference in other people's lives around things that they care about without keeping score, there's going to be a day or time where it's like a bank account. I think one of the biggest mistakes people have a too big of an ask around things that they want before there's any relationship capital in the piggy bank.
Definitely.
So
very easy mistake to make too.
yeah. So my thinking is, meet someone, invest in the relationship, add some value, help them. Ken Cragen, who's a mentor of mine, he was the creator of We Are the World. He was Lionel Richie's manager. What he taught me was do things in threes. So if I meet someone, I'm thinking, how can I quickly add value in threes? Maybe it's an introduction, maybe it's inviting them to an event, maybe it's doing something to help their charity, maybe it's sending them an article. It could be any number of things, but I'm going to try to do it as rapid fire as I can to invest. Not saying, hey, now I need mine, but I'm saying, like, I mean, Gary talks about give, ask, right?
Yeah.
Right? And I really think that's the way it should be. Give, then ask. Add value, and then if you ever need something, you got the relationship capital, makes it a little bit easier with connection currency.
Well, I like that approach because you're not just trying one kind of approach. If one doesn't work, you're already ready for the next one and the next one and the next one, and you're always looking for new ways to just add that value. And the concept of adding value is such an esoteric, arbitrary term for most people, because when you say stuff like that, it's like saying something like fairy tales. But you kind of have like all these different things that you look for. It's like seeing the social matrix, as we call it.
I think well, first of all, Gallup says the number one predictor of career success is the quality of one's relationships. I think the number one skill, though, that if you could master any one skill, I would say it would be creating value for others. Think about this. Whatever you want or need, someone else already has. For example, if I was in the dating niche, which I'm not, but if I was, I'd be asking myself, what can I do to help you and Owen? How could I create value? I mean, I'd be thinking about whatever I could, because if you would endorse me, if you would have me speak, if you would do an interview, chances are, if I had a program that could add value around the dating niche, that would be huge because of who you guys are and the influence you guys have. And I just think that from a strategy perspective, there's so many different levels. It's like peeling back the onion. You could send someone an article. You can get good at just by giving ideas in the real time, in the moment. One of the things that anyone can do, what books do you have? What books have you read that are helpful? What resources, what podcasts are out there that you could recommend to someone? So I just think there's so many different ways to add value, but most people never think of it as a skill. But if you can actually master that, it's like the easy button of life. You can think about it. You can go up to anyone in the world you ever want to meet, and if you're present in the moment to understanding who they are, you can go add value to them. Maybe not today, might be a week, might be now, might be a month from now.
Well, you're someone who also is always involved in continual learning. What are some of the most recent memorable educational experiences and books that have drawn you in the last 12 months that really have kind of like inspired you?
Well, I mean, I have conversations all the time with Jay Abraham, and one of the things Jay has always taught me is always be an outside the box thinker, always like push that free line of like being that, like try to create as much value as you can. So that's one. I think Tim Ferriss's podcast, I've just learned an awful lot through some of his, the interviews, that he has. I've also enjoyed some of Lewis Howe's, some of his podcasts. Are we talking books now, is what you were saying?
Oh, any kind of resources. I think that education as a core value is awesome. So, I mean, books in and of itself are actually not even the main means I go through, because I read books now because I'm studying now at Harvard. I'm studying law.
Yeah.
At the same time, most of my learning has been just interacting with people like yourself, asking questions. I love the idea of doing more podcasts and maybe more YouTube videos. Recently, because I created a YouTube channel, I've been studying a lot more of YouTube channels, YouTube videos. But I mean, I'm just really curious about what you're studying, because...
So, we both have him as a mutual friend, but Gary Vee, I think his Daily V is phenomenal.
Yeah,
I think his Ask Gary V, both the book and his video thing is pretty phenomenal. Someone else who I'd highly recommend, especially for entrepreneurs, not only because he's inspiring and motivating, but he's like the real deal, which is Grant Cardone. Grant's messages, whatever you want to go do, just do 10x more. Now, I mean, it sounds simple, but really 10x the activity, whatever that is. But I have found on, like, even their Snapchats, incredible value. I've been watching a little bit of Tai Lopez's Snap. He's always about the books and the knowledge or whatever, but he's constantly adding value to his core, his platforms. But to me, that's the right way to go.
Now, with all this social capital that you have built up, What's your game plan now to utilize your massive network in terms of business? Like what projects and plans are you working on right now?
So, I actually haven't done a big conference the last couple of years. So I'm doing two things. I'm doing a private invitation only event that I told you about in August that I'll be doing. It'll be like a day-long mastermind with some of the big influencers on my network that Jay Abraham and I are doing. So that'll be fun. And then I'm going to do something in the public in the fall where I want to create like the ultimate course on connecting, on building relationships. Not only how to connect, but how do you take a contact and turn it into a true connection? How do you turn a connection into a raving fan? How do you turn the raving fan into a partner and really have collaborative commerce, right? So I'm going to be inviting in some of the most connected people in my network to, like, for example, I know it helps to have a good memory. I know it's helpful to know that you go to Harvard or whatever it might be, and I'm good at memory, but my friend Jim Quick is even better. We were talking about Harvey Mackay. So I'm going to have some of the top guys in the world sharing different areas of disciplines. And I'm also going to invite in people from the entertainment to all forms of business. So whatever someone wants or needs is going to be literally a table away or a person away for them making the necessary connections. And it's just always something I've always dreamt about doing this. We did it with Hsieh, but it was only open to the elite of the elite. So this one will be more open to normal entrepreneurs.
Oh, okay.
And I want to create an environment of this whole give first environment and teach people and go deep and how to organize their network and how to use the live stream videos to add value at mass. But then how do you go deeper with one-on-one true relationships in business, and how do you make things happen faster? So that's what I'll be doing in this fall.
That's
amongst
cool.
One of the projects, yeah.
Yeah, I've been curious about whether or not I should be organizing an event where I was getting people in terms of business on a larger scale, kind of like what you're talking about in terms of August 24th, because I've done those one-day events. I've done one-day events at Tony's place 3 times.
Yeah.
I've done stuff at like these mini castles where I had 3 or 4 days of people networking together, and I've really enjoyed that. But I was really kind of like saying where it was just influencers, and it was really done more for my friends as a way for us to like get together and learn, as opposed to like making money. I guess it sounds like what you're planning to do though is kind of build a product line to help those people to add that value to people who really want to build a business and actually grow that as like a networking function, kind of like, I guess, like Harvey Mackay, but doing it in a different way.
So about a couple years ago, Jay Abraham basically says, Larry, I'm going to New York. Is there anyone you can introduce me to? And he kind of told me what he was looking for. And I'm like, yeah, there's 1 or 2 people. So I reach out to this one guy who runs a huge hedge fund conference in Vegas called SALT. His name is Anthony Scaramucci. He's got his own TV show on Fox called Wall Street Week. And I had met Anthony right after his book, The Little Blue Book of Hedge Funds, came out. And I wanted to just be helpful to him, giving him some ideas, send him an article on 12 things he could do to send out to his network. Anyway, so I email Jay and him, they connect. And then about, 2-3 years ago, I get another call from Jay, and Jay says, hey, my son would like an internship in the music industry. Can you help? It's not like I'm in the music business, I'm not. But I sent 5 emails the next day, and literally the guy that runs the Grammys, Brandon Chapman, and just some other people that were very influential in the music world all responded back like very quickly. And the guy from the Grammy says, yeah, we have an internship program. I'd be happy to talk to your friend. And Jay was just like, wow, unbelievable.
Yeah, no joke.
So Jay and I have been talking. He goes, I would really like for you to like pull back the curtain and like step by step, like what are you doing? How are you doing this? And since Gallup always says this is the #1 predictor of someone's career success, I'm going to go teach my methodologies, but I'm also going to layer on some of my friends that are world class. Like you're world class at building relationships. You're world class at inviting people to different things. So I think how cool would it be to do a PhD level class or a seminar or event from the best in the world on the same subject, and then invite some of the best connectors in the world to teach, to share, to help, to network.
Get Elliot from the Summit Series and get Harvey Mackay, get
them all.
But I think that what's interesting is that you got guys who are super connected with celebrity status like Jay, but you really have way more skill set than them in terms of networking and connecting. Like your Rolodex it's just kind of just grown. It's like this organic growth that kind of just was not just organic, but it kind of like was organic plus supercharged with like mass amounts of vitamins.
So I'll give you, just so you know, I'm shy. I'm a little introverted. Now I've learned how to work the muscle line, so I know how to do the networking. I come from a middle class family in New York. Just so everyone knows, I didn't come out of the womb as like a connecting machine. I've made it and lost it financially more times than I can count. I've battled depression on numerous occasions in my life. And the reason I'm telling you guys all this is back in the early 1990s, I was in the financial services, failing miserably. I tried to get into the technology industry, and literally it dawned on me, I'm like, shit, I don't even have the right level of relationships. I don't have the connections to get into that industry. And it was so frustrating, I swear to God. I mean, I have like a flashback moment even thinking about it right now. Literally a good weekend back then, I swear to God, I would literally, many of you may not remember, but like I would get a Blockbuster video, which they're not even around anymore. Yeah. I would go to the mall, I would get like $5 or $6 of Chinese food. I'm like, that was like a good weekend back then. But there was one guy that I met, his name was Chris White. And for whatever reason, I was so stressed out of my mind because my financial situation. And Chris took the time to connect with me, and he paid for a bunch of tests on my natural skills and aptitudes. But for the 1/2 hour or hour a week that I was in his office, I was at peace. But because of him, he introduced me to someone, and that guy introduced me to someone, and because of that, I met someone that was kind enough to make an introduction that eventually allowed me to ultimately break into the technology industry. And I said, I will never have that situation ever again. And then in the late 1990s, technology was booming with the dot-coms, and some of my clients were like the who's who of technology at the time. And what I learned was you can get a meeting once with anyone, once. But to get invited again and again, you better deliver some goods, you better be a resource, and you better add value. And I've always remembered that, and I've stayed in touch over the years with a lot of those kind of people. And I really believe this is a learned skill. Some people are probably more gregarious, some people are extroverted, but I'm saying as a shy, introverted guy, I've had to learn skills, systems, tools, technology that makes it easier. As a matter of fact, I would much prefer to go take a video and sing someone a happy birthday, and I'll send it to them, but I use the phone in so many different ways by the technologies, but just the simple smartphones of today with what you can do is incredible. But I just think it's a great skill to have. Everyone should hone that skill, even if they don't like to necessarily network.
I think it's interesting that you said that you can get invited to meet anyone, and you can meet anyone. Yet at the same time, so many people can't. It's just like this naturalness to you, though. And I feel like that's one of my strongest skill sets. I believe that I also have that skill set because I actively just go out there and meet people. I also wonder whether or not I'm an introvert or extrovert as well, because I spend so many of my hours playing video games and chilling. I'm playing golf, which is a single person sport as opposed to a team sport. Yeah. I'm involved with a team. I guess in terms of you, though, that skill set to just go out there and meet anyone, anywhere, and just like go out there and meet those people that are really difficult. They have these massive firewalls, but I guess for me, I feel like I'm really good at penetrating that, but I feel like for you, you also have that skill set, and so natural that you're able to kind of just say, of course, you could meet anyone you could get access to once, but to get them to see you again and again is like a really interesting skill set you have to really develop.
I think, so two things. One, if you're meeting a public figure, most people have social media today, you should do your research and your homework if you can. So if you're going to an event and there's a bunch of speakers speaking, go do your homework first. What's on their Twitter? What's on their Facebook? Is there anything that you can have commonality with? So in the first 10 seconds, so for example, I remember years ago, I was going to go meet President Clinton at a fundraiser, and I was thinking to myself, okay, if I have 10 seconds with President Clinton, what could I say? Who do I know on my network where there might be some commonality? And I remembered asking myself, who do I know in my network that knows him well enough where there's some name recognition? I reached out to Ken Cragen, and what's interesting is, I said, Ken, tell me a little bit about President Clinton. He gave me some insights. But we talk about two things: adding value and always trying to help someone. I asked Ken, We Are the World 2 was taking place. And I said, Ken, can I invite President Clinton to the We Are the World live recording with, Usher to Justin Bieber to Celine Dion and all these things? He goes, yeah, that'd be great. I said, can I invite him to the We Are the World and actually, play saxophone with all these amazing recording artists? He goes, that's a great idea. And then I said, but can I invite him? He's like, yeah. He goes, Ken said he didn't have final say-so who played the music, because Ricky Minor, who is the band, or Quincy Jones would have that final say-so. But what I'm saying is, by thinking of what's of value to someone else, including the former president of the United States, a shy, introverted guy from New York, me, meeting someone for the very first time, the president, who's probably had the most amazing life possible, I found something unique enough that you could offer something of value. What's that gift? That, the gift was, would you like to come? Would you so I believe no matter who you are, you can connect with someone, you can add value to someone. You just got to always be thinking with your antennas. Something that I use a lot, and you probably do too, is called trigger events. So a trigger event could be personal, like a birthday, an anniversary, a divorce, a graduation. That's personal. Business is the company goes public. They become a best-selling author. They raise money for their company. They get a job promotion. Those are all those kind of things. And it's, I was on Facebook today. My friend Simon Mainwaring was on Richard Branson's island, and he was talking about how Richard got everyone to jump into the pool with their clothes on. I started typing up a message to Richard that said, Richard, Simon Mainwaring said you got everyone to jump into the pool, ... And then my email is going to be basically saying, is this the key to a successful party? But I'm just trying to think of something timely that's an event. His mom was in town like 2 months ago for some award, and that would have been a trigger event possibly for me to reach out to Richard. But I wouldn't want to just reach out for the sake of just saying hello. It's reach out with an event, but then is there something of value potentially when you're reaching out to someone of value or someone of influence?
Yeah, that's awesome. I love your phrases, organizing things into like trigger events, and I mean, people just think it's a holiday, it's a birthday, but you're actually utilizing these terms as like official networking terms in order to get everything in your life.
Official terms.
Yeah, I love this. It's so much fun to hear you just talk about things. The whole world as like one giant microcosm of massive networking skills.
The reality is, it's actually, if you want to work less, just like work smarter. Most people like, oh, you got to put in so much work. I think if you're organized on how you frame your network, meaning like, for example, who do I know that's in LA? Or who do I know in LA that's an author? Or who do I know that's an investor? So literally, I started scrolling through my phone just the other day, and I said investors. And I started looking up who's in LA, who's in Vegas, or who's in San Diego, who's in nearby. So if I want to invite someone to the dinner party that's just an investor, or it just depends on what it is. And so I think if you organize and leverage technology, system, and then process, and then you do what I think makes a lot of sense, if you can connect 3 people a day, or just add value to 3 people a day, or tell 3 people a day you appreciate them. I got a handwritten note today. I don't remember the last time someone sent me a handwritten note. I went on my Facebook today, and I talked about this guy that sent me a handwritten note he met me at a party a week ago. I said to him, I'm like, how many handwritten notes did you get today? How many handwritten notes did you get this week? How many handwritten notes did you get last month? Exactly. Probably not many. If you got 1 or 2, that whoever that was stood out. So it's like the simple little things. So like when I sing someone happy birthday, chances are most people are not doing it, but you got to know when their birthdays are. So I program it into my phone, or I see it on Facebook, or at least take the time to remember their special occasions. It's like the little things that go a long way.
Are you organizing your life just around your phone? Is that your main thing? Like, do you have all your contacts sorted in a certain way, or is it kind of just like?
No, it's, yeah. So in my Connection Mastery home study or our events, I go a lot deeper on this stuff, but let's see, my phone. So I try to sort things based on their passions. So if you and I met in the War Room in Austin, Texas. So what I would do with you is met through Ryan Dice, Roland Frazier, Perry Belcher in Austin, Texas at the War Room. Lives in Vegas, in the dating business, is an author, speaker, expert. I would try to think of all the connector. I would try to think of all the things. Passion is golf. I would try to think about all these things, and then I would put it in the phone under the notes field so it's searchable. Or I could put it in Nimble or like Infusionsoft, one of my CRM systems. So to me, where most people, like, you tell them you're a golfer. You might tell them whatever you tell them, but it goes in one ear and out the other. Or someone reads something on Facebook about their kids or what they love to do, but they don't put the information in anywhere. So if you actually take the time, just a little extra time, you will save a tremendous amount of time. And then you could do actually a lot more with the network, for the network, help other people. You were talking about like the influencers. Over the years, we've had some remarkable superstars at our events. But a lot of times half the time I'm not asking for me. If I ever do ask, a lot of times it's for asking for something for someone else where there's some value exchange. But if you're not organizing the information a certain way, your memory normally is not that good, like my friend Jim Quick or other people that are amazing at it. So you have to put the information somewhere so it's a system to make it easier to stay in touch, to connect, to serve and add value.
You're the only other person I've ever met that actually uses an official enterprise level CRM to organize its contacts. I used to use Salesforce.com and you're using Infusionsoft. I guess just sorting by notes, I guess that's something you could probably do with an iPhone or an Android, right?
Any phone, for the most part, probably has a note field or there's different things that are searchable. So technically, you could do all this if you wanted to without any fancy systems or CRM things. You could do it in your smartphone. I definitely am a big believer in using some of the technology that exists out there. I mean, listen, we use a greeting card system that just makes it a little bit easier to go send personalized greeting cards or send brownies and send the note out, boom. But there's a lot of different things you can do. But you can do the smartphone too.
What about social media? How are you utilizing the various tools like Snapchat and Facebook and all the different channels that are out there?
I'll give you a perfect example. So a month ago, I was watching Grant Cardone's Snapchat. It was a birthday weekend. I don't remember whose birthday. And they were going to New York. So I reached out. I texted Grant. I'm like, hey, Grant, I know you're going to New York. Would there be value in you connecting with the host of Wall Street Week on Fox? And he also runs the most influential hedge fund conference in the world. Grant owns $400 million of real estate and wants to get to $1 billion. And that's a good connection for both guys. And he's like, yeah. So I sent an email Friday night, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, or 6 o'clock my time, saying, hey, Grant, meet Anthony. Anthony, meet Grant. Grant's in New York this weekend. You guys should connect. So I saw him on Snapchat. I'm like, okay, he's going to New York. Again, I'm thinking of that. Another time I was on Facebook and I noticed Shonda Sumter. She was in Bali. And so I sent, because I saw her thing on Facebook, and so I sent an email. I'm like, Roger, meet my friend Shonda. I'm like, she's over in your neck of the world. Roger's got the coolest green school over in Bali. You guys should connect. The next day, she's over at his green school. She said it was the highlight of the trip. So I think it's a combination of seeing what's going on in your network, of the relationships that matter, and then I do try to add value through posting videos and content and stuff like that. So that's value from social media outbound, and then from seeing what's going on in my network, can I connect the dots? Oh, the other thing I've just been noticing is Facebook has location-based services now, and it'll say, hey, Nick is in LA. As a matter of fact, I saw that Adam was in LA the other day off his Facebook. So I texted him, I'm like, hey Adam, how long are you in town? Let's connect while you're here. As a matter of fact, I saw you on Adam's Snapchat. Oh, yeah. And I texted you, I'm like, are you in LA? Right?
Yeah, that's right.
And look, we're sitting down doing this interview right now.
Yeah, that's true. That is actually why we actually connected.
And I saw that on Snapchat, and I texted you. I didn't realize you were, and eventually we found out we're both going to be on the same panel, but here it is. We coordinated, and now we're doing this interview, and I don't know, I'm sure a few thousand people will go watch this video, right?
I love that you're like the Eagle Scout of networking. You're like the Boy Scout motto where it's do a good term daily, except that you're doing 3 and it's about networking and connecting people.
Yeah, no, I mean, seriously, if you were just to take the connection challenge, just try it for 21 days, try it for 30 days. Reach out to show appreciation for 3 people a day. So it could mean reaching out to you and say, hey Nick, thanks for doing that cool interview, or maybe it was something else, but just reach out to 3 people a day. And then, can you connect 3 people in your network of something of value? The article, another helpful connection, or just something. Maybe there's an event that you can invite them to. Something simple.
It's a great mission.
If you do that 15 minutes a day, just 15 minutes, I guarantee you over a course of a month, that's 90 connections. You can go rinse and repeat the next month. Listen, you don't need thousands, you only need a handful. It takes one of the right relationship to be a game changer.
This is so awesome. This is the most fun I've had of any interview, and I think it's so epic.
Well, I appreciate that. And by the way, if they want to go to, I think it's larrybenet.com/ebook, there's just a free giveaway on how I connect with Richard Branson, or the questions that I like to ask, and just better strategies to go learn more, or hit me on Facebook at Larry Benet so they can kind of watch or learn or whatever. But I would love to continue the dialogue and see what else we could do to collaborate, and I've been having fun doing the interview.
Yeah, you're definitely welcome to speak at an event that we hold in the future.
Let's go do it.
I'd love to have you there. This has been epic. Cheers. Thanks, bro.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate it.
Guys, I definitely want you guys to check out Larry's book. Larry, what's your URL for your book again?
They can just go to larrybenet.com/ebook. And it's my tips on how to connect with anyone, anytime, anywhere, and how you can have more influence by influencing influential people.
And subscribe to my channel, get more interviews just like this one. And if you want to learn my philosophies in terms of networking, visit rscfoundersclub.com. Cheers.
Peace.
Awesome.
Let's go get some food.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get some steak, celebrate.